my human capital and that complement of all of those things are unique to me, not only because of my experiences, my background, my upbringing, et cetera, but also my unique gifts and talents, the non-teachable. We are privileged to have a portfolio of human capital that chooses to come to work with us every day.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's Christine Miles, your host of Shine a Light. It's nice to have you all here today, and I have the privilege of being here with Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Welcome, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm awesome. Christine, thank you for having me.
So you are a globally recognized human. Let's focus on the human capital strategist, USA Today best-selling author, and board-certified executive coach with more than 30 years, not looking at you, but of 30 years of experience transforming how organizations invest in their people, which is so important. You are the founder and CEO of the Benson Performance Partners, co-founder of the Zeal to Heal, and creator of the 7-Minute Pivot. You partner with executives and leaderships across public, private, nonprofit, multi-industry sectors to align talent strategies with business growth. So I can't wait that's a lot. That's impressive. Like I said, nobody looking at you would say you've been doing this for 30 years, but I think there's probably so much that we can learn from you. So welcome again.
Thank you. So good to be with you guys.
So you've been in this like human capital thing for a long time, and human capital wasn't always talked about quite in the same way or the way we're talking about it now. So take us back. How did you get into the work?
Yeah, I think defining it's really important to your point. A lot of times I think when people hear human capital, it provokes a variety of different reactions.
Which are?
Well, I think for some people, it feels as though we're commoditizing human beings. I think on the negative side, somebody might react with, gosh, that feels cold. That doesn't feel like we're really, thinking about human beings as people rather as commodities. That isn't the way in which it was really, when you go back and study human capital from its inception, wasn't its intention, and certainly not how I think about it and talk about it. My belief is that everyone has their own human capital, right? We have skills, knowledge, natural talent, experiences that are our human capital. And that there's a value associated with that. And
it's unique. It's
unique. Absolutely, okay. Christine. And it's unique. My human capital and that complement of all of those things are unique to me, not only because of my experiences, my background, my upbringing, et cetera, but also my unique gifts and talents, the non-teachable. For organizations or for the leader listening, we are privileged to have a portfolio of human capital that chooses to come to work with us every day, right?
Yeah.
And so it's commoditized from the aspect of you and I have these natural gifts, talents, this human capital. There's a value associated with that. And what I encourage the people that I coach and talk to is, don't undersell yourself. Your human capital is of value, and treat it as such, and you can capitalize on it and you can grow it. It can be compounding when you invest in it. And by the way, that same thing is true for leaders and organizations. When they look at individuals bringing their human capital, this portfolio, they too can benefit when they invest in it and see it compound. So
rather than just seeing it as the number of employees you have as your human capital, you're really talking about what are the unique skills, abilities, life stories, experiences that people bring. And I would imagine helping them create language around what that is helps them, the more you understand, the more you can talk about something in a meaningful way, the more powerful it becomes, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And where the uniqueness comes in, to your point, is so often organizations and leaders are looking solely at things like skill and knowledge. You and I may be able to type the same speed with the same accuracy. And so not a big differentiator. That's not where differentiation comes in, right? Skills and knowledge can be taught.
Yeah.
But your life experiences, your natural gifts and talents that are part of your wiring make your human capital uniquely your own, and mine, my own. And so to me, I like to say every single human being has talent. The question is talent for what?
Right.
That's where the differentiation comes into play.
So there's knowledge and skills, and then there's talent. They're not the
Right.
same thing. Yeah.
Correct.
Like you don't want me as your accountant. Like not that don't have any kind of financial propensity, but you don't want me on that wall. The number of errors and the things that I don't see, my brain doesn't register.
Right.
I wouldn't be good at that.
And it probably doesn't fill your cup either.
Of course
Right.
not. No, especially
It's
since
not
I
something you
suck at
find,
it.
right. It's not something you find joy in.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a lot of things we can do
Yeah.
that we don't find joy in. That
Yeah.
isn't a natural talent either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've heard, people have trained to be doctors, and it's not that they don't love the profession, the idea, but then they're so far down the road. They're like, maybe this isn't the joy I've thought I would get. And they feel stuck because they've invested so much in their careers and their, the education and the finances.
Absolutely.
But most of us aren't as boxed in as all that, are we?
No. But I think I'm going to answer that slightly differently. I think a lot of people end up boxing themselves in.
Yeah.
Or leaders box in those who work with them. And here's why I believe that to be the case. Like a beautiful pair of shoes, I would use this example. You can get very lured in by their beauty, right?
Yeah.
But when you put them on, if they don't fit, they're very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Careers are like that for a lot of people. And that's where we box ourselves in, right? So if the person listening is chasing the proverbial career ladder, go from supervisor to manager to director, et cetera, but really doesn't get fulfillment out of managing others.
Yeah.
Right? They love working as an independent contributor. That's what fills their cup. That's what they're great at. Then it doesn't feel like a good fit. And so sometimes we keep chasing a title, an income, a status that isn't leveraging our greatest gifts and talents. Yeah. And we can also become victim of that because leaders use very, in my opinion, lazy measures by saying, Cynthia was a great bedside nurse. Let's make Cynthia the nurse supervisor.
Sure.
That doesn't necessarily, it may be perfect fit, but just because I'm good at one thing doesn't naturally mean that the next leap is going to be a great fit.
Well, I've spent a good part of my career helping those who were put into a great individual contributor into the management role, I've gotten to the point where it's more proactive than reactive, but reactively because they're like, I wasn't ready for, this isn't what I was doing and nobody prepared me how to do it. So I'm with you there. So, but so this is really helpful. And I appreciate that's such an interesting way. Cause I get what you mean about the negative connotation, because if we're treating people like products, then it doesn't, and it is an old term, isn't it? It is. Human capital is an old school term it's not a 21st century term.
No, it's gone through a lot of evolution, a lot of different interpretations over decades. Absolutely.
Yeah. So looking at it both individualistic as well as how it is on the corporate side is really fascinating. But so tell us about you though, like take me back. Where did you, I want you to go way back, by the way, pre-college, like you're a little kid. Where'd you grow up? What are you doing? There's something about you that must have been dabbling in some human capital world, even as a little girl, I would imagine.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I mean, I think I was one of those oldest child. So my sister and I, she's 4.5 years younger, really young parents. My parents got pregnant with me and got married very, very young. So was raised very much like an adult in a lot of ways, right? Which is very formative. And then being an oldest child of a somewhat younger sister. always was those leadership qualities that you would,
Okay.
or bossy, right? But one or the other. It depends. If you ask my sister, it was probably more along the bossy side.
That's funny.
Um, but always fascinated with people
Mm.
and what was beneath the thing. Like just always found this real interest and intuition around why people behave the way they do, why they think the way they do, et cetera.
Well,
So I
how did
think,
that, you're a little kid, how'd that show up? Like, well, like,
yeah, I think it was a lot of perhaps giving grace or
mm,
questioning.
mm,
If somebody was mean, it was, well, I wonder why they're mean like that.
you were paying attention to
I
different
was
things.
paying attention and it was curious to me.
Mm,
Um, it was curious to me that if people behaved a certain way that I thought was unusual, I was sort of always playing a bit of the devil's advocate, maybe. Like,
mm,
maybe there's more to that story. It feels like there's something else that's part of why they're showing up that way. Defensive or mean spirited
mm.
or angry or whatever it might be. Um, and so I can remember in high school and whatnot, when you do those career
Yeah.
assessments, they would often show up around social work, therapy,
Okay.
psychology, etc. So I
Yeah.
feel early on like there was something to that curiosity. I was a very curious
Hmm.
kid,
Good.
and remained curious. Not a strong academic early on, though.
Hmm.
Um, Very busy,
Yeah.
very busy.
Well, and let me just, so part of why I think this is an important question, not only for you as my guest, but for my listeners, is that
Yeah,
we told you, especially around the subject that you're describing, which is our own human capital, is I believe our purpose shows up pretty early in our
oh,
lives and who we are. And we're not used to, when I ask people this question, they typically go back maybe to college, maybe to
right.
high school, but it starts from the time we can sort of remember. What kind of clubs were we in? What kind of role did we take? What did we have on some, school assessment? I mean,
Yes.
my purpose showed up at a very, very early age with, learning to listen differently. So I just think it's twofold. So it's helpful to get to know you and where this
Mm,
started, because, anybody who's an entrepreneur, which you are, is doing something very purpose driven. It's,
sure.
it's a calling. And I want people to recognize that this is something that they can do, as well as ask themselves, who am I? What were my interests very young? What was different or
Mm.
special about me? How did I stand out? And that helps us figure out what our own human capital is.
I think that's such a beautiful approach. It's interesting. I'm having sort of a self-discovery as I'm listening to you, because what I would say about my younger self, my Cindy, by the way, you asked what I like to be called. It takes me back to being 12. Um, Very animated, into theater, into music, would put on little shows in my backyard, and I would buy treats with my allowance, and then I'd sell them at my shows. So fast forward, I went into broadcasting and film. That was my undergrad.
Oh,
I
wow.
was a theater minor, and I really thought that's what I wanted to do. I loved sort of whatever I thought that image, again, chasing that sexy pair of shoes, right? I had an image of what that would be like. And I spent a short time in radio broadcasting. And one of the things that struck me is how lonely it is,
Hmm.
because it isn't like you're around a bunch of people. You're in
No.
front of a microphone and a camera. It's
Yeah.
pretty isolating.
Yeah.
And I fell into business while looking for a way to pay the bills, while I was
Hmm.
trying to explore what I thought would be this broadcasting career. And I fell in love with leadership.
Hmm.
And it was so interesting to me because it isn't glamorous and all of those things
It can
necessarily.
sound glamorous.
Didn't sound glamorous. Yeah,
Well,
it did not.
it can, though, to your point, that shiny shoes is that it can sound like this is what we're supposed to attain to, but it's not for everybody.
That's right. That's right. What I loved was the impact on other people.
Mm,
Again, I think it gets back to, that's where I'm saying kind of an epiphany about that. I loved studying human behavior. I loved it in negotiations. I loved it
Mm.
in watching people in the business. I loved it from how people handled conflict resolution or didn't. All of those things were very interesting to me, and I was very
Which speaks
curious
to
about.
your curiosity about how things happen underneath the
Right.
surface, right? What's your
Yeah.
PhD in, by the way?
Social psychology.
Social psychology. Okay,
Yeah.
so the
Studying
test was
people.
the assessment was right, is
It
what.
was right. It was right. I'm doing it a little differently, but it was right. I know. I thought about that. I'm like, that is so crazy. Um,
You know what I say though? Anybody in the field of psychology, and I get to say this because I'm in the field of psychology, we come from crazy. Like
oh yeah.
we come from crazy.
Oh,
We're trying to fix what's
absolutely.
broken inside of us.
Listen, we have lots of examples, right? If we're curious about what makes people tick, it's because we've had curious people around us.
Or we've needed to be curious to survive what's around. So
Correct.
I'm going to be really blunt here. This is the way I feel about coming from crazy. I think that we're all fucked up. I
Yeah.
just only want to hang out with the people that know they're fucked up, because the ones that don't are the ones that are really fucked up, right?
Right. Oh yeah, those are the scary ones. You got to stay away from that.
Well, it's part of the self-awareness that,
Yes.
I don't know that there's any such thing as a perfect childhood. Now, I don't expect everybody to have the story that I have or maybe that you have, but somewhere in there, there's something.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
self-awareness is absolutely huge. It's funny. I say a little bit the same way with complete respect. I did my dissertation on mental illness and mental health.
yeah,
But there's oftentimes we talk about being on the spectrum. There's a reason they
sure.
call it a spectrum, right? Because we're all on it.
Like, who's not on the spectrum?
We're all on it. We just have
Right.
to figure out where on it, we are, and how do you cope based on that, and having an awareness that you're on it.
Right.
So,
I call it the fucked up spectrum.
that's see neuro
Maybe there should be a dissertation on that. What do you think?
yeah, I think you've coined something there. I know. I love it. I love it.
Well, it's good, but it's important work, right? So okay. So I digress, and I appreciate you allowing me to
I
digress.
love it. It's great.
So it makes sense. So you think you want to be a theater person, and I can't believe
Barbara
they put you in
Walters. I
radio.
wanted to be Barbara Walters. Yeah.
Okay, because of that curiosity, that makes total sense.
Yes.
But then you kind of get fascinated with the human part of this behind it, and then how that applies to business. So you study this, you get your PhD. So
Right.
so what is it what did you get into first, and how did you get into this different kind of human capital work?
It started with so I found myself in training and development, by no surprise, right? A
Sure.
great combination of strong communication skills, the ability to be up in front of a group. I loved teaching education, adults, not children.
Kids.
That was not my thing. And so I got into training and development, and about 10 to 15 years in, I was exposed to positive psychology and behavioral science.
Mm.
And what you will appreciate is there was this moment where I realized that the first half of my career, I was convinced that I could teach anybody to be great at anything, right? Give me the crappy leader that, nobody wants to work for, put them in my leadership class, and by gosh, I'm going to whip them into shape. 'Cause I'm that good. I'm so good. And then I began to learn and study positive psychology and behavioral science. And I'm like, the entire 10 to 15 years has been really a myth, because the bottom line is, give me the person that has the natural DNA hardwiring, gifts and talents for leadership, actually likes people and likes leading people and investing and pouring into them. Then I can build them to exponential success. But don't give me the person that doesn't like people and doesn't really want to be a leader, and they got forced into the job, or they only took it because they like the title.
So because I've had a lot of people who are like, this whole idea, are you a natural or born leader?
Right.
And you have this DNA, and that, I think or are you an introvert and not an extrovert? And does that make you good or not? Like all this stuff. So I think, let me just see if I get the distinction you're making. A lot of the distinction you're making is the desire, not just the skills, right? It's the wanting, not the whether it's in there, you can work with somebody who has the desire to become a leader or to be better at it versus someone who's just like, that's not, I'm fighting it. I really don't want, that's not what makes me happy. Right.
As long as the desire is well placed. So let me give you an example. I might have the desire to go be a famous singer, right? But if I don't have the pipes and all the things to go along with it, I can have the same coach, put in the same number of hours training, et cetera, as Taylor Swift, and I'm not going to be Taylor. That is the same thing around leadership. I can desire to be a great leader, but is the desire based on, I love pouring into people. I like coaching and developing. I like spending time one-on-one and seeing other people reach success. If that's the desire, absolutely. I can give you tools and resources and coach you to exponential success. If your desire is, I want to be a leader because I want people reporting to me and because I want a title right? So it's kind of a yes, but I work really closely with people to say, but why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be that thing? And I'll give you a really quick framework for the person listening. This is how you know you're working in a talent and that your passion is aligned with actually a talent and not some other desire.
Okay.
It's ACEs, ACES, right? ACEs. It's affirming when you're doing it.
Okay.
It feels good when you're doing it. It's fun. It fills your cup. It brings you joy. It is consistent. It doesn't sometimes bring you joy or you sometimes like it. You always do. It's like, I sometimes like being around people, but not all the time. Well, that's probably not a real strong, intense talent theme, right? It's affirming. It's consistent. You do it with excellence. What do I mean by that? People come to you and say, Christine, help me better language this thing. Help me to lean in to be a better listener. Help me to something that they know you're really good at because you do it with excellence. And it's spontaneous. You can't help yourself. It's not like it's a book or education or a tool and you had to think about it. It just happens. And the quickest example I use is the person that walks into, say, a conference and there's people everywhere and the intake process. That person that walks in and sees all this chaos and thinks, if they put a stanchion there and added a person there, this whole thing would be so much more organized, right? It's spontaneous. They didn't sit and stew about it. It just came to mind versus the person that just assumes the chaos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if it feels good, it's consistent, you're better at it than most, and you do it spontaneously, that's a core talent. Those things we can develop to exponential success. If any of those things are missing, it might be something you're capable of, good at. You know, none of us, 100% of our job doesn't allow us to work in our aces, right? I still have to do things as part of owning my own business that are not fun. But I try to minimize that.
Yeah. Well, and also to make sure you're being clear about what the motive is, right? Because I think especially when we talk about leadership, it just becomes first of all, most people want to progress in their career, and that's too often the natural progression. So that's what you do. You go for the next level versus, is that really what's going to make me happy? Will I thrive? Will I help other people thrive? I was a field hockey player as a young person. Yeah, I was a high school player. I mean, it was all started with my coach, who was amazing and was a U.S. player herself. And I was very fortunate to be coached by her because she's turned out athletes and women like there's no tomorrow. Like, she's just amazing. But I fell in love with her and the sport, and not a natural athlete, like not Taylor Swift. Like people will say, well, you are athletic. Well, I chased a ball a lot as a kid, but I wasn't like, nobody was calling for me to be a sports person. But I was a willed athlete because I loved the sport. So this speaks to your point.
Right.
And I was determined to get to the U.S. field hockey trials and level. And I really wasn't naturally talented enough to do it on my own, like to be there. And once I got there, I went, oh, all they do is play field hockey. Like I loved playing field hockey. I loved practicing field hockey. What I realized when I got there is I didn't want to do that only.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful I had that experience to make it to trials on a couple of occasions and play with the best people.
Right.
And maybe if I was more talented, I would have loved to be on the US team and be able to travel. But I didn't, I had more that I liked doing than just playing field hockey. And I kind of went, oh, that's a big revelation here.
Yeah. And I suspect it was more work for you than for someone who, was it more work for you to play at the level that you were pushing yourself to play at? Was it harder for you to be consistent at that level than someone that you saw as having just a lot of that natural talent?
Well, at that level, they're all working so hard. I mean, you don't not work. It's more like it's just what they could just get their bodies to do was a little easier. But so the ones that make it are the ones that have the talent and work hard usually.
And it brings them so much joy. They want to do it all the time.
Yeah. And I, like that, I could have, there's so many aspects of it. So, but I think I often say to people, when you're thinking about what the next level is that where you want to spend most of your time and heart and energy? Because, it's, getting there is different than arriving is the lesson I learned.
So true.
From that.
Yeah. And sometimes you get there, as you did, even in leadership or different roles, and you go, this is it?
Yeah.
This is what I've been working so hard for?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you raised such an important point too, for the person listening, which is there are lots of ways to expand your financial growth. The lattice versus the ladder, moves that allow you, there are independent contributor roles that are well in and above the six figures.
Yeah.
So part of it is just really being super clear on where you show up with, and that brings you joy, that you automatically perform with excellence, because then it doesn't feel so much like work. You're monetizing what you love to do.
Well, I think navigating that I think about generationally, just where they're coming in. I think about the school debt and the cost of living. So here's a personal story, and I'm going back a number of years, but I dated a guy because I'm divorced, and I dated a guy, and he was very nice, and he was a adjunct professor at a pretty prominent, a university in the Philadelphia area. And there are many, so this doesn't name anybody, and he was just such an engineer. And I like so left brained. And he said, I tell my students, like, get out of college, get a good job with a good title and a good salary. 'Cause where you start really makes a difference in terms of, then you can go and figure out what you really want to do. And I said, that is the worst advice you could ever give somebody. And he looked at me and said, what? I said, that goes against every leadership. It's so counter, but in his logical mind, because again, he was, more left brain than right brain. Shock, we didn't make it. But I appreciate he was willing to listen to my feedback, was that that's what people get into thinking is survivability. And I have to follow these prescriptive ways to get there rather than find a different path to get there. Right.
Absolutely. And following somebody else's dream or somebody else's advice or somebody else's expectations, rather than being really, really clear on your own.
Well, think about you take this assessment in high school, and a social worker, a therapist, what was the other one?
Counselor, like all in that, psychologist. Yeah. All in that field.
And so also, but these are jobs. They're not careers. Right. And as someone who graduated with an undergrad in psychology, and I've mentored many a person that says, I'm told the only thing I can be is a therapist with this degree in psychology. So it's help us understand, how do you figure out that I don't want to go that leadership, or that isn't my ace, then what? How do you navigate?
Well, I think part of it too, so I'm going to tie a couple things together that you mentioned is, I went in a completely different direction, right? I have a broadcasting and film undergrad with a theater minor.
I made it up. Yeah.
And then I'm going to go into leadership. Later, when I fell in love with business and found that was a real sweet spot for me, I had a real knack around business and leadership, I got my MBA. because at that point I thought I really need to add some credibility to my resume, and I needed to add, frankly, the education to strengthen my own knowledge
Sure.
base. And then later when I got my PhD, it was really more because I was planning ahead for what I wanted to do in my encore. And I felt like I want to do something that I'm going to love, which is keep studying people. But where I'm going with that is you have to be able to pivot and know what is transferable. Here's the thing that we're going to see more and more of with AI and machine learning and everything else, right? Is that everybody, well, a lot of people are saying, am I going to become obsolete? Are we, any of us going to have jobs, et cetera? Here's what I believe to my core. The things that we have long called soft skills, which drives me crazy, are the things.
It drives you crazy because
it felt very minimizing. You know, coming from a training and development early in my career, it was, you know, there was the operations type of curriculum, and then there was the soft skills, communication.
Like the nice to have.
Yeah. Like, oh, and we'll, you know, we're going to have this fluffy, soft thing. We're going to go learn how to be a good communicator.
Even though 86% of failures come from that problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly. So what I would say is a couple of things, and particularly given the age that we're in with everything happening with machine learning and AI, et cetera, our unique human advantage are those natural talents. It's not going to matter how fast you type or don't. It's not going to matter, you know, how quickly you can memorize something as it did before, because we can Google it and have it right in front of us. What's going to matter are how we're able to dig deeper and connect with people, to problem solve, to think at a higher level. And so what I would suggest is, if you're pursuing a path that in either in retrospect or in self-discovery, you think my motivation for this isn't really aligned with what I'm born to do.
Yeah.
Then identify what those natural talents are. Put those down on paper. Go through that ACEs exploration. And one of the things I say is, think about a day that at the end of the day, you say to yourself, that was such a good day. That was so much fun. And then what was it about that day? You know, you solved a problem nobody else could solve, or you found some error in the detail, or somebody came to you for advice. Whatever those things were, that's the trail to your ACEs.
Yeah.
Then what are the jobs? What are the paths that you can take that allow you to do more of that?
Yeah.
And they're there. And I'm telling you, they're going to be more and more prevalent, because the age of skills and knowledge and having to be expert at this, that, and the other thing are going to be minimized, because the cognitive load is going to be handled elsewhere.
Well, it's already happening. I mean, we think
Absolutely.
So here's the challenge in all that. So we know that some people have more emotional acuity than others. And so I've said, you don't want me to be your accountant. Again, I have some rudimentary math skills. I'm dyslexic, so it's not my forte.
Right.
And I can actually do things strategically pretty well. But if I'm skilled and my brain is wired for math, and I hear AI's coming, and I don't have this natural proclivity towards the emotional quotient. Now, we know that can be developed. The brain's flexible, etc. So I'm sort of making a case for let's start earlier. But I'd be kind of terrified. I get the fear of that. Yeah. What if my ace is I love engineering and software development, and now the AI is going to come and take that from me and do that job for me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think it has to do with going deeper. And that is, okay, so you're good at math. Let's just use your hypothetical example. Somebody that's really good at math and solving equations. And so that's kind of the space they're in. Well, it's not just about the skill of doing the math and the equation and the knowledge you have about when there's a plus and a minus, you're supposed to do this or that, right? Not, by the way, an example that I'm going to be very articulate with. Um,
We got 3 moves instead of 7, like somebody
yeah,
in true math. Yeah.
there you go. But what is the natural talent around that?
Mm-hmm.
It's the you're able to think quickly, to connect pieces of information together to solve and create an equation or an answer. That you
Yeah.
have a curiosity around obscure things that need to come together. That's where you have to go deeper and then say, okay, you know what? AI isn't perfect, by the way,
Yeah, no,
because
of course
human
not.
beings are feeding it information and it's
Sure.
feeding it right back to us. So how do you take that talent associated with that skill set and apply it in this different world?
Yeah.
How do you say, I'm going to be the person that supervises the bots because they're not people. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to have a lot of high EQ. Well, we don't have to communicate. But when they spit out an algorithm or an information, I'm going to be the guy or gal that validates that there's not something wonky in the algorithm.
Mm.
I'm going to use my brain at a higher level
Yeah.
and really tap into those uniquely human talents. So, that's a great example because it's one you have to really be thoughtful about. And I would encourage, not just because I am a coach, but because coaches need coaches too, is that's where working with someone that can really help
help you.
you get under the thing so that you don't sort of just throw in the towel and say, well, my job was fully automated.
Yeah.
I don't have a job anymore. And by the way, very few jobs will be fully automated.
Totally.
It's going to be 10% of you, 15% of me, right?
Well, this is where I'll make the case where I believe that that even if it's not your natural inclination to develop your emotional skills, this is where we need to start young. And we need to always be going to the gym for that, because the problem is we're just not focused on developing them versus that we can't build them. And it will feel frustrating and it will feel hard sometimes, but it doesn't have to be as hard as you think. And if you can communicate about the math as much as do the math really well, your chances go way up of being successful, particularly in this world, because that's what employers look for anyway, a large part of it, right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just easier to want to work with people that are easier to work with. And so whether you use it, I mean, I don't do anything anymore without a coach. I mean, I need somebody to tell me what to do at this stage of my life. That's all I want. Tell me how to hit the ball. Tell me how to
point
do this.
me in the right direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And being an athlete, you're very accustomed to working with coaches and see the value. A lot of people that didn't come up through either an organized sport or some kind of other training. It always fascinates me when executives are anti-coaches. And I'm thinking there is no profession when you think about sports, entertainment, et cetera, where you aren't constantly working. To your point about the gym, I'll just say this quickly, because I say this a lot and it picks up on that. Talent is a muscle. And if you don't develop it and pay attention to it, it atrophies.
Sure.
And you can also grow it, strengthen it, build it. So it's not like you're just given these gifts and, all is well with the world. You're given these gifts and you have an accountability to develop them, to invest in them, and to exercise them.
Yeah. And this isn't what school teaches us enough of.
No.
Yeah. So sometimes we come into organizations and we don't really know how to navigate this, which is why I say, the early in your career as well as later in your career, I say, why do world-class athletes have a coach? They're the best golfer in the world. Who can coach them? Well, they can see something that athlete can't see. That doesn't mean they know more. It just means they need that, because you can't be your best by yourself. Yeah.
And your coach, that's a natural talent that person has that maybe not everybody does. The woman that coached you in field hockey has a gift.
I mean, I hit the jackpot, really very early. I got spoiled by by having a great coach. And like any profession, there's people who are really good and there's people that aren't as good. So if somebody's not serving you well, find a different coach, you know?
Absolutely.
So, well, Cynthia, tell us about you have a book coming out, do you not?
I do.
Another
I
book, I
do.
should say.
I do.
Another
Yes.
book.
Well, so for the woman listening, my first book, Now Near Next, is available
Say it
now.
slower. Say it slower.
Now Near Next.
Which is behind you. And that's
Just
for the
behind
woman
me.
listener. Why the
Yes.
woman listener?
So for the female listener, it's all about how do you look up, look forward, and start working and investing on your future today. It's a USA Today bestseller, and I highly recommend it. My new book, Human Capital Investment Strategy, is really geared toward both the individual and the leader that wants to better understand some of the things we've been talking about. What is human capital? How do we ensure that it is a compounding asset and that we are investing in it and leveraging it to the fullest extent, both as individuals and as leaders and organizations. And it drops on February 3rd, 2026. So not sure when this episode will air, but it's available in pre-sale ahead of time. And then after February 3rd, it'll be available wherever books are sold.
That's really exciting. And, you know, a book is a coach. Is it as good as working with you? Of course not. But if you can't afford you or your own coach, there's obviously there's so much coaching out there. So just understanding that's the beginning of the guidance towards how to navigate, and we can all do that. So
absolutely.
Human Capital Investment Strategy coming out February 3rd. I'm not sure either, to be honest with you, when this is dropping. So for the listeners, maybe that's before or after, but here we are.
That's right.
We'll look for it, and we're excited. So anything else how can people find you besides the books?
Absolutely. So you can reach me on all the socials at Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. And I know that Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer, and that'll be in the show notes. And then my website, dr-cynthia.com.
Great. Well, it's just such a pleasure. You're doing really good. And that's organizations and individuals that you work with, correct?
I do. Absolutely.
Yeah, super. Well, thank you for your insights and helping us understand how to appreciate our own value in our human capital, not this term that means something so far away and kind of cold, because it's all up to us. It starts with us, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christine. It's been such a pleasure.
My pleasure. And thank you, listeners, for listening to Shine a Light. And hopefully you got some amazing tips that you can think about and start to use right away. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.